Good afternoon. We are in Oklahoma, where I can just tell by the way in which people interact that you all are not unlike the folk I grew up with in South Carolina. There's a certain warmth and a certain hospitality and a certain dynamic. And so what I'm going to do is do as I would do back in my little hometown of Georgetown, South Carolina, which is to say, when you say good afternoon, everybody answer as though it were truly a good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. It is a delight to be here and to be in the presence of not only those who are associated with a history-laden organization, that being the NAACP, but to also be in the midst of people who are in the midst of making history. Let me note that, because the NAACP is not a relic of our history books. It is not a footnote in the gilded pages of the past. It is a living, breathing asset, and I should say, living, breathing entity in our midst, making our democracy ever better. And so I'm just delighted to be here, delighted to be in your midst. I want to extend a word of appreciation to the state conference, to the branch leadership, to the attorneys, judges, advocates, and those of you in the room who believe in equality and justice. I don't take it for granted that people take time out to celebrate social justice and celebrate the work of the NAACP. As an attorney, I'd like to just share with you why I believe that those of us who practice law, who represented people in court, who've taken up the cause of those who have grown discouraged seeking justice from our justice system. If I could just share with you a little story about why I believe standing up for those who cannot stand up for themselves is so critically important, and why I believe that law is a calling. It's a biographical story. The story is an autobiographical story. It's a humble story, but it is, in fact, a true story. When I was a young man growing up in Georgetown, South Carolina, I had a wonderful grandmother who was blissfully unaware of the 13th Amendment barring involuntary servitude. And so as a consequence, she thought it not robbery to offer the services of her grandsons to her neighbors at any given moment. So anybody who needed their lawn mowed, anyone who needed a package picked up, anyone who needed an errand run. My grandmother, Mrs. Rosalie Prelo, thought it was her job to ensure that her grandsons, 13 and 14, were fully employed. So one day, she said to me, I want you to go over and visit a woman by the name of Mrs. Kelly. And I want you to mow her lawn, and if she asks you what you will charge her, you tell her that you're doing it simply because it needs to be done. So I went over to Mrs. Kelly's house and I mowed her lawn, and thereafter she asked me this question. She said, young man, what is it that you want to do when you grow up? I said to her, I think that I want to be an attorney, a civil rights attorney. She posed the question, do you think or do you know? I said to her, ma'am, I know I want to be a civil rights attorney. She then asked me the question, well, where do you want to go to law school? I said, well, ma'am, I really don't know. She said to me, you need to go to Yale Law School. I said, well, where's Yale Law School? She said, it's in Connecticut. I said, now why Yale Law School? She said, well, because my brother graduated in the class of 1910 from Yale Law School. This was an African-American woman in the low country of South Carolina. I said to her, I said, well, is it true your brother went to Yale Law School back then? She said to me, yes. And not only that, he was an African-American who grew up in a time of prejudice and Jim Crow, and he was deaf and blind in one eye. His name was Roger Demosthenes O'Kelly. Note the middle name. He went to Yale Law School, and she told me he went there because he could not get into Gallaudet, which was the University for the Deaf in Washington. He went to Yale Law School because that was the place he could go. She said he went there and he found people there who did not look at the color of his skin, nor did they look at his disability. And she said to me, I think that's where you need to go, and I think you need to go there, and then you need to graduate and come back and serve your people. She told me that story when I was a very young man. Many years later, I tried to honor the promise I made to her. Being an attorney is about honoring promises. The promises we made to our communities, the promises we made to our democracy, the promises we made to the bar, the promises we made to ourselves that we are going to be the advocates we were called to be, and we are going to serve the people we are called to serve. As lawyers, as judges, as advocates, were you to walk the halls of the national headquarters of the NAACP, you would be emotionally transfixed and visually mesmerized by the images on the walls. Images of attorneys whose work yet speaks to us. Thurgood Marshall, Charles Hamilton Houston, Oliver Hill. Images that convey to us the magisterial promise of the law, the profound potential of justice in our court system. When you walk the halls of the NAACP, everywhere you look, there's an image of social justice, an image of justice made real in the lives of people from every hue and every heritage, from every corner of the country. Those values, those ideals are represented in those images.